Welcome to Fitness with Gerry video 15. We are going to review downward facing dog. Sometimes called downward dog, sometimes even easier called down dog. Lots of videos available for you to watch on YouTube. A few days ago I watched a couple of them just to see what's out there. One was an instructor who reviewed in depth the movement of the shoulder, really useful. And the second one I watched was another instructor, very playful. Lots of good information out there. What I think I can do different is a few more ideas of how to use this position, very common in many yoga classes. Also important to know that this position can be used for relaxation or for strength training or for stretching. One of the most important single elements, with any yoga practice or position is staying in tune with your breathing. Yoga can be defined as union or uniting, and it's the breath that unites everything. So as best as you can, stay focused on the breathing. You can see, first of all, before we continue with this, I am kneeling and I have a thin cushion between my upper legs and lower legs. Many people have a problem kneeling like this, and it can become a lot easier if you put a cushion in the crease of your legs. The thickness of the cushion, you might need a thicker cushion. Good position to do because I have a nice stretch happening in this part of my legs, and also very important is this part of the leg gets a nice stretch. I have found many people are very tight at the ankle, right at the front here. So a good position just to open that up, and much better for your spine than sitting in a chair or on a comfortable sofa. You can do this position while watching TV or even while chatting with your friends. So the downward facing dog. I'll teach you what I learned in teacher training course. The position of the body. So you first start in what I call table position, on hands and knees with hands under your shoulders, a little bit wider than your shoulders, and knees under your hips, knees a little bit wider than your hips. Lift up one hand to go on the top of your middle finger, and then place the heel of your hand where that middle finger was. So that's hand placement for downward dog, and the legs stay where they are. Then you'll roll the toes under, lift up the hips, and push the upper body upwards and the lower body upwards. And then you could bring your heels as close to the ground as possible, and your ears will be alongside your biceps, the upper part of your arm. So that's basic position for downward dog. You may have noticed that my heels don't touch the ground. I have been doing this position for more than 20 years. And even before that, I had decent flexibility through competition athletics. But my heels still can't touch the ground. So about half of the time that I do downward dog, I will either raise the ground above my heels using a piece of wood, or I will put my hands on yoga blocks so that I can raise the ground and my heels will touch the ground. I'll show you in a moment. I want to review the position of the hand. The hand can be with the middle finger pointing straight up, or you can rotate the hand slightly and you'll notice that the crease of the wrist that's created will be parallel to the top edge of your yoga mat. So that's what I learned with the yoga course. And also important to protect the shoulder joint. So my right hand is rotating clockwise. The elbow and shoulder are rotating clockwise. And my left hand, the elbow and shoulder are rotating counterclockwise. So that just puts your hands, elbows and shoulders in a position to protect the joints. And it also keeps the muscles active so that you're not resting the weight on the bones or the joints. You want the weight to be resting on the muscles. So let's just quickly review what I spoke about by raising the ground. So here now you can see that my heels are touching, and now it's a grounding position. It's fine if my heels don't touch, but there is a big enough difference that I will do this about half the time to have the grounded position. And if I'm using yoga blocks, I can put these where my feet are, my heels, or I can put them where my hands are, raising the ground where my hands are. And now I am also connecting both hands and feet to the ground. Makes a difference. You can experiment for yourself. This is an interesting position because both halves of your body are working independent. The top half of your body is pushing upwards and the bottom half of your body is pushing upwards, giving you a peek at the hips and the butt area, which is unusual for many other positions. I have a list of stuff I want to review just so I don't forget. Here's my list that I wrote down. What am I forgetting? Maybe I'll forget something. I probably will. So, different options for you, and the first two are advanced in terms of you need to build this kind of strength and flexibility before you're actually going to feel comfortable in it. One change in position, instead of having the hands like this, you can have the hands like this. Okay? With your hands like this, it's important that the fingers are spread apart and that you're pushing each finger and each knuckle into the ground so that you have a solid foundation for your posture. Same thing has to happen with this one, pushing all the fingers and the knuckles into the ground. And if you're beginning with this position of the wrists, this might be enough for now. And then slowly, eventually, you will gain strength and confidence, and you can do a modified downward facing dog with the hands in this position. And the reason why I decide to do this is just to keep a balance in the wrist, because we are always doing stuff, positions, training, even daily life with the hands like this. This gives the wrists and elbow and arm and brain an opportunity to learn having the hands in this position. But please be careful. As I said, start off with just the basic position, and maybe that's as far as you want to go, so that you're not risking doing any kind of fairly traumatic injury. The other change, which will have to be built up slowly, is instead of putting the toes under, I can go on the top of my toes and come into a fairly full position. And then I'll usually flip and then go into the regular position. So again, can be dangerous. You need to be your own instructor to let you know where you're available at this moment, and if you're available to go and continue further putting more weight on this compromised, potentially dangerous position. The next change, alteration, modification is, let me go this way. I have these two yoga mats set, is to keep your hands together. This I don't think I need anymore. Hands together. And you can have the feet regular or the feet together. Takes away a lot of stability. But it trains the muscles and the brain in a slightly different way. And you can always move up. You can see I am now doing what's sometimes called the taking the dog for a walk. You can see what's happening with my hips. So I am putting one heel on the ground and raising up the other heel. And this can also be done with the hands in the regular position. The feet are just a little bit closer than they normally would be in the original position. So hands and feet together, another opportunity to explore this position. And another one I like to do, this is a volleyball that I found in a field. It was ripped open. So I stuffed a canvas bag inside and then sewed the split seam. If you put a ball or even a folded up towel or a pillow between your knees, another new connection for the brain, nervous system, because now there's something new to think about. And what's happening is the muscles on the insides of my legs are a lot more activated than they would be without the ball. So I am just actively pushing my knees together, not forcefully, just making sure that the ball doesn't fall to the ground. And you can adjust the body position, playing around with different things. Here I'm going into a side plank. Quite unstable, but really good for developing different muscles. So play around with that. Another fun idea. This next one is possibly the most dangerous because I'm going to lift up one hand. It's dangerous insofar as if my supported hand slips, then I'm going to come down on my head. So I'll show you two different angles. So here is regular position. Make sure you're stable and not on a slippery surface or a slippery mat. I'm going to bring my left hand slightly inwards and trying to keep the weight even on all 3 points. I remove my right hand and I grab it on the inside of my left ankle. So making sure that my hips are still as much as possible in the middle. My left ear is still by my left bicep. And then I would return. Let me show you this angle. And this way I can balance myself out by using the other arm. So have your stable position. Right hand comes slightly towards the center. Make sure I'm sturdy. And then left hand grabs the inside of my right ankle. And you can see I moved a couple times just because my mat is on this straw mat, which is a little bit slippery. Okay, repeating again can be quite dangerous, so make sure you're on a surface that you're not going to slip. Before I go any further with my list, I'd like to mention also many times in this position, most of the focus is pushing the hands outwards. I think it's also important to have a balance to push the hands inwards and imagine you're on a sheet of ice. If you're pushing outwards, you're going to fall flat. So you need to have a balance of the outwards, upwards push and the inwards push, and it'll also adjust the way your muscles are working. So where were we? Curving the spine, which is the best angle. So a lot of times I follow my breathing and I'll just curve the spine, repeating with one cycle of breath. And you can also move sideways, laterally. So here is the regular position. Now I am just moving my hips a little bit to one side, and I'm trying to keep equal weight on the hands and the feet. Returning back to center, and then moving to the other side. Good for the spine. Spinal mobility is really important to allow for ease of moving. The better, the more flexible, supple, strong the spine is, the easier everything else is. One leg up and bent. This one is also quite advanced. So starting off in downward dog position. So I am going to bring my left foot closer to the middle and I raise my right foot. So here you can spend some time going up on the balls of the feet and then coming down, and this can be what you do. Or you can rotate the pelvis, rotate the hips. It's a good strengthened position for the outside of my right butt muscle. And bending the knee. Here also I'm trying to have equal weight on my hands and that one foot. So here can be your end position, then go back. Or you can rotate that left foot and come into a really nice back extension. Strengthening also the left arm and joints And then rotate, pivot your foot, ankle, return your hand to the ground, and lift your leg back up. And then repeat on the other side. Let me show you from this angle. So you got regular position. My right foot comes closer to the center. I lift up my foot. The wall is in the way, so my foot's going to go a bit higher. Up and down on the ball of the feet. Bending the leg, making sure I have equal weight in the hands. And then if I want to go to final position, I come into a nice deep back extension. Can't hold this position for too long. It's not one of those easy positions. And then rotate the shoulders, rotate the hips. Hand comes down to the ground. Leg can go back up. And then returning to the ground. You can also put in a child's pose anywhere you want to, just to relax, refocus, get back to a nice, even breathing rhythm. And most of the time, my shoulders feel as if they need to go into a reverse prayer position. So watch how I raise my hands so that they get a bit higher between my shoulder blades, and I connect palms of hands together. This puts my shoulder, balances the shoulder from the downward dog position. Many times I just feel it's beneficial to do that after downward dog. The next one is going to include the neck. So here I am, starting position. I will lift my head and rotate to look at one hand. Hold that for a few breaths and then come back to center, a neutral position, and then look at the other hand. And then come back to center. Another option is to look underneath the arm. Always trying to connect the shoulder blade. Right hand moves clockwise. More the right elbow and shoulder. And the left elbow and shoulder move counterclockwise. So now I'm going to look under the right arm. Yeah, another fun position to play with. This one needs a lot of flexibility in the shoulders, and it can be too much for many people, or maybe at this specific moment that you're doing the position might not be advisable. And to be able to do it comfortably, I usually put my hands and feet a bit farther away than the regular position. And it's going to open up the shoulders a lot, put them in a vulnerable position, but I don't hold it for really long. I usually take a few breaths in and out, slowly get myself into the position, and then the crown of my head reaches the ground. And I just stay here for a few breaths with the breathing. Another position I like to do to balance is what's known as upward facing dog. Really important to keep the abdominals active so that I am not collapsing and compressing those large vertebrae at the bottom of the spine. So following the breath, I'll do like a pumping action, going to the downward dog and then the upward dog. Repeating, keep the abdominals engaged. You can imagine pelvis rotated under and the belly button pulled in towards the spine. You can also do a bit of a different rotation with the hands and the ankles. So see how now my hands are rotated inwards, which puts the shoulders a little bit more vulnerable. But it's a really great stretch specifically for the thumb and the index finger. Right here I'm feeling a really nice stretch, which is good because many people, I say many people because at the moment I don't have a phone and I am not doing this, but if you're texting on your phone, these muscles are going to get a little bit stressed. So that position with your hands like this gives a fairly intense stretch on this part. And many jobs also, if you're typing or even a dentist or a goldsmith or even a bricklayer, especially if you're tying rebar together. Most of the time our hands are closed, so it's really nice and a balance when we can open and rotate in different directions. Here is also a possibility. I just can't do the regular position, bringing my hips as far back, because my arms, my elbows, wrists, and shoulders are not allowing it. But you can probably see a nice stretch all in here and all the way into the ends of the fingers. And with the feet rotated, so here I have myself in regular position. So my right leg rotates and then I push back with the arms. I am getting a good isolation on the outside leg muscles and joints, tendons and ligaments. The IT band, very tight in many people. This position gives it a good stretch. And balancing on the other side, I don't know how well you can see that, but I have rotated my left leg. My ankle, my left ankle is about at the midway point of my right foot. And we're almost done. Arms and legs bound. I don't have my strap. Forgot it. But you can imagine I have a loop belt that I would put around my elbows. And bringing my hands closer together, I would have my arms bound together, which gives another sensation, a new connection, more information for the body and the brain. And with the arms bound, I like to come into the forearm down dog. It also trains the upper arm muscles. And sometimes I'll also have the legs bound. You can use a loop belt, which I bought secondhand from a secondhand store. You can also use a tie or any kind of other belt, or a towel, or a rope. So that's downward dog, downward facing dog. Various things you can try, not necessarily all in the same session. You can try 2 or 3 this time. Explore how it feels in your body over the next 2 hours or 2 days. And then go back to what you tried, maybe evolving a little bit, and then try something new. Just if you want to stay with the yoga practice, the important thing is to stay connected with your breathing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.